So my name is Richard Dodd, D-O-D-D, Richard Dodd from the British Retail Consortium.
Yes, I can see on the level. Okay, right. Yes, okay, right. Richard, could you tell us who you are and what you do?
I'm Richard Dodd. I'm spokesman for the British Retail Consortium, and we're the main trade association for British retailers, and we represent, for example, all the major supermarkets and dozens of other retailers, most of the major names that everybody's heard of across food and non-food.
Right. Would that include like Tesco's and Sainsbury's?
We represent the top 9 biggest food retailers, so that means all of the big 4 supermarkets and lots of other major food outlets as well, plus lots of non-food retailers.
How do you feel about the government's alcohol strategy plan to set a minimum price of 40p per unit?
It's simplistic to think that using the force of law to push up the price of alcohol is going to make a difference to irresponsible drinking, because irresponsible drinking is something that only a small minority of people are involved in, and it's actually got cultural causes, and that's why retailers are hugely involved in things like funding Drinkaware, the Know Your Limits unit labelling programme, and sorry, I'll just do that again. So I do the whole thing again. Yeah.
We'll edit it out.
Irresponsible drinking is not about price, it's got cultural causes, and that's why retailers are hugely engaged in things like funding the Drinkaware campaign, Challenge 25, which is about preventing underage sales, and the Know Your Limits unit labelling, which helps people to regulate how much they're drinking, because those sorts of things to do with information and education are and will make a difference to irresponsible drinking. If you use the law to push up prices, all you're actually doing is penalising that vast majority of people who drink perfectly responsibly by forcing them to pay more than they need to.
How will increasing the price affect department stores such as Tesco and Sainsbury's?
Supermarkets, you mean?
Yes,
Supermarkets. None of this is really about the difference it'll make to retailers. Remember, the retailers have all long opposed the idea of minimum pricing. We've been saying literally for years that this is not the right approach to tackling irresponsible drinking. You can see why it's attractive to politicians, because it looks like something that they can easily do. You know, they pass a law, they set a figure, and their belief is job done. Well, actually it's much harder to change the culture around drinking, but in fact that's what retailers are engaged in, because that's what will work. Using the law to push up prices will just penalise the vast majority of people who drink perfectly responsibly by forcing them to pay more.
So do you think making alcohol less affordable would effectively stop binge drinkers, which you have when marketing to people?
Using the force of law to push up prices is not going to deal with irresponsible drinking, because people, that small minority of people who do drink to excess, who have a problem with alcohol, are sufficiently motivated in their drinking to not be put off by prices going up. What you will do is you'll penalise all the other people, the vast majority who drink perfectly responsibly. You'll make them pay more for their alcohol to no good purpose.
In your opinion, why do you think people do binge drink? Is it about cheap alcohol? Is it peer pressure? Personal problems?
Irresponsible drinking has cultural causes. It's about the whole attitude and approach to alcohol that we have in this country, much of that being rooted in the way in which we're brought up with it. And yes, it's very difficult to change the culture around alcohol, but that is actually what we are managing to achieve. And remember that total alcohol consumption in this country is actually going down. The government's own figures show that the proportion of both men and women who are drinking more than the government's own recommended safe limits is improving. So things are changing. using the law to push up prices isn't going to contribute to that or make it happen faster. It's the things that retailers are already engaged in, offering information and education that are making a difference and will go on making a difference. And that's where we should concentrate our efforts.
You said this in one of your answers before, but obviously some people do argue that increasing the price is not fair on those with responsibility. So you agree with that?
Say that again?
Increasing the price of alcohol is not fair on people who do.
Yeah. Setting a minimum price is just a tax on responsible drinkers, and I think now that we've seen a figure set in Scotland, which is quite a bit higher than many people had thought it would be, we're going to see, once this is introduced, we're going to see an increasing number of people saying, I'm already under enormous personal financial pressure. Why are politicians making me pay more than I have done before for my bottle of wine or whatever it is? I'll do it again. I'll do it again. It's simplistic to think that minimum pricing is the answer to irresponsible drinking, and I think now that we've seen the Scottish Government set a figure and show that it's determined to press ahead with introducing it, I think what we will see is an increasing number of people appreciating the reality of that, and people are going to be saying, I'm under enormous personal financial pressure as it is. Why are politicians adding to that by making my weekend bottle of wine or whatever more expensive than it has been? Because I am not the problem, that is other people.
If the price of alcohol is not increased, what do you think should be done to stop binge drinkers?
Retailers are already massively engaged in things which are working, and that includes Challenge 25, which is about preventing underage sales, funding the Drink Aware campaign, and also providing the Know Your Limits unit labelling, which helps people judge how much they're drinking. Those are the sorts of things that are already making a difference, and the government's own figures show that the proportion of both men and women who are drinking more than the government's own safe drinking guidelines is actually improving. Total alcohol consumption is actually going down, so things are getting better. Of course, it's slow and it's difficult, and you can see why it looks attractive to politicians to say, well, something's got to be done, let's just pass a law about price, that'll show how determined we are to tackle this and how active we are. Well, you can see why that looks like an appealing option, but it actually isn't the right option. The right option is the one that retailers are involved in now, and that's about information and education.
Do you know of any other organisations or trades that disagree, that disagree with the price of alcohol being raised? Because we know the very much in support.
Retailers have consistently opposed minimum pricing. Other trade bodies like the Wine and Spirits Trade Association, alongside ourselves, the British Retail Consortium, have consistently said that. Yes, there are organisations, some doctors' organisations, for example, some of the health charities, who are big advocates of minimum pricing. I think they're getting it wrong. I'm not denying for a second that there are some people who drink to excess, that there's bad behaviour and there are health difficulties associated with that. But I think just because you recognise and identify a problem, that doesn't mean that minimum pricing is the solution for it. Yes, we need to do something, but we should be doing the right thing, and the right thing, difficult though it is, slow and steady though the progress is, rather than being overnight. It is about education and information. It's not just about legislating on price.
Okay, great. And then just had one question in my head though. Okay, right, it's gone. But I think I've got everything I need.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you said a lot.
Okay, fine, good. I'll give you your microphone back, obviously. Give you your microphone back.